Hi, it's Liz from West Star Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do part one of a series I'm calling my favorite minors. I almost said majors. My favorite minors. I was thinking about this because I actually do have favorite minors. This will be Rider-Waite-Smith and Rider-Waite-Smith clones or influences, Tarot de Marseille or Pip decks. I guess you could have favorite minors in Pip decks, but I don't. I don't use the other system. So this will be primarily, well, actually, completely Rider-Waite-Smith related. So I'm starting off the day with the Three of Swords. This is from the, that giant deck. I used to teach tarot classes, and so I got this deck for teaching purposes, and I thought, oh, perfect for today. So I'm starting off with the Three of Swords, which some people may say, that's one of your favorites, but it is. And I only came to that realization not that long ago. There are other minors that I've always really been partial to, but I just recently, within the past couple of years, realized that the Three of Swords is one of my favorite minors. It's a little bit of I don't know if controversial is too strong a word, but I've heard a lot of people say, especially people who aren't necessarily Rider-Waite-Smith folks, people who tend to read more Pippish decks, and people who read elementally and numerologically, that they really, really do not like this card, this portrayal of the Three of Swords, because they feel like it's one-dimensional. It doesn't, people don't tend to talk about, they only look at sort of the negative side of things with this card, and gee, I can see why. It's a heart with three swords piercing it, and gray sky, and rain, and clouds. Well, what's positive about this? But I think there is, for me, I found a positive twist, and that kind of was what made me realize, you know what, I like this card. So you see me glancing down from time to time. I did make notes because there were things that I didn't want to forget to say. So let's talk a little bit about the numerological and elemental aspect of the Three of Swords. So 3 for me is expansion and growth. It's like 1 plus 2. And so you're moving beyond that duality of the 2 into expansion and growth of the 3. And I do find 3s to be more of a positive, even though, there's that old 3's a crowd. But I do think of it as expansion and growth. And, when you look at this card, swords piercing a heart, I can see why people might have trouble with it. The other thing is, elementally, swords are air and related to the mental realm, the intellect, decision-making, communication, mind, not heart. And yet, what do we see in this card but a big old giant heart? So I could see why people have problem with this card when they read in that way. And it's not that I don't ever read that way, but I guess I sort of read the deck that I'm using. Not that my knowledge doesn't necessarily influence, it does, but what does this card say to me given the querence question? If you're using a spread, the spread position, I don't tend to do spread positions, but if you did, and also the surrounding cards. So question, position, and surrounding cards influence the reading, I would say. So let me just talk a little bit about, you know how I like to tell stories. So a couple of summers ago, a friend of mine was telling me about this research study that she read about. And in this study, scientists were looking at plants. I believe the overarching research study was, are plants sentient, sorry. And of course, as an herbalist, I would say, you know, I don't really feel like I need to do a research project to answer that question, but okay, you guys did. What'd you come up with? Here's what they came up with. So one of the aspects of the study that they did was they wanted to see if plants can hear. Now, plants don't have ears the way animals do. So it's a different kind of hearing. But what they did was they studied the plants and they measured the level of glucose the plant was producing before, during, and after there was a pollinator present. In particular, pollinators that made noise. So like not a butterfly, but a bee, zzz, or a hummingbird, which has the buzzing wings flapping. And what they found out was that after a pollinator that made noise visited a plant, the plant's glucose production went up, spiked actually. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that the researchers concluded that the plants could hear and sense the presence of the pollinator. And when they sensed the presence of the pollinator, they produced glucose, so that there would be an offering there for the pollinator. So what does this have to do with the Three of Swords, you may ask? Good question. So what happened was, when my friend told me that story, like I said, as an herbalist, I see plants as sentient beings. I get communications from plants, so I do see that. But when I read, this is a scientific, study, and they said, yes, plants can hear, plants are sentient. They can sense the presence of pollinators, and they biologically do something that, pulls the pollinators and attracts them and keeps them interested. And that cracked my heart open, if you will. I just had this feeling of my heart expanding and my heart breaking open, breaking out of like a crust or a hard, rigid shell. It just broke open in a very positive way. And after I had that experience, I immediately thought of our friend, the Three of Swords. And I thought, you know what? That's a positive aspect of the Three of Swords. When something profound happens, or you hear about something, or you experience something profound, your heart expands and it cracks open. And it grows 3 and expands 3. And I guess when I think about this card, I think about an interaction between the mind and the heart. That it's not just the mind and it's not just the heart. So intellectually, I heard about this study and processed it, and it affected my heart in a positive way. My heart grew. My heart expanded. So that's how I look at the Three of Swords in a positive way. Now let's look at the other side. pain, suffering, betrayal, heartache, heartbreak, heart attack, high blood pressure, I don't know, heart surgery, all kinds of things that aren't so pleasant. So, so the other thing I wanted to say, now that I'm looking at my notes, which I didn't do, let me go retrospectively back to the positive. So that heart, when it expanded and broke open, it freed my thoughts from being encased in a hard shell. So that's how I related the mental realm and the heart realm. All right, so we can see here, this card actually has a reference in the Rider-Waite-Smith to the mental realm, the body, and the heart or spirit. And so this is actually one of two minors in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that does not have a person in it. So the other one is, I'm going to wait a second. Which one is the other one? You're right, the Eight of Wands. So the other one is the Eight of Wands. So those are the two minors that don't have people in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so let's look at this. We do see that the sky is gray, but there's a bluish tint to it, hinting that, you know, there is potentially a positive outcome. Something okay might come out of all this pain and anguish. Astrologically, this is Saturn in Libra. So it's the third decan for, second decan Libra. So harsh, it's harsh. It demands truth. And I do feel like swords are about truth. Sometimes truth is hearing the truth. Breaking out of delusion and illusion can be painful. And we can see in this card's imagery that the swords are actually cutting into the heart of the matter. So they're going right to the center, right to the heart of the matter. And that's the Saturn part of it, so the harshness. And then I do see a balance here with the one sword in the middle and then one on either side is a balance. Lulu? So the pain of truth it can be real when we've been living in delusion. You know, when you've, say, for example, had a partner. It could be a business partner, it could be a romantic partner, it could be a friend. And they've been deceiving you. And you've been deluding yourself about that deception. And then finally, it all comes to a head. And the pain of the truth comes to you. And you know, the delusion is gone. The truth hits you. You're not going to not see it anymore. But after that, the doubt is gone. You're not questioning it anymore. Now you know, yes, that person betrayed me. Yes, that person is lying to me. That person has not been loyal or true to me. And then the clouds of doubt can clear away and the rain can go and we can heal and move on. So as long as we're living in that, with that illusion and delusion, the clouds aren't going to clear because the clouds of doubt are there. I've gone through this myself and I know I was deluding myself about someone who betrayed me. And for years, I had this doubt and I wondered. And then finally, I confronted and my worst fears were realized. But you know what? It was good because I didn't have to live with doubt and wondering anymore. I had some intense and difficult pain and suffering. But then I've then I was able to move on and realize I can't be in relationship with you and start the healing process. So again, I think that's another positive side of the Three of Swords. So betrayal, infidelity, a third person in the relationship, disloyalty in business or work or personal relationships. Getting, as I said, right to the heart of the matter. So the shock and pain of betrayal has occurred, but now it's time to begin the healing process and for the clouds of doubt to move away. So I wanted to just, I have a sample of several of Rider-Waite-Smith related decks, Three of Swords that I thought I would talk about. So this is from Tarot de Sainte Croix. And I'm just going to look at the guidebooks. This is by Lisa de Sainte Croix. So this is what Lisa says. I love this. It's really interesting. She just says this in like 2 or 3 sentences. The flaming heart represents passion. 3 needles, so these are needles, not swords, pierce the heart, but one is mending the broken heart. You see the one in the middle? So the meaning is forgiveness heals betrayal and heartbreak. I don't know about forgiveness, but recognizing the betrayal, dealing with it, and beginning the healing process can definitely mend the broken heart. Here's one that's a little bit more literal. It's an actual anatomical heart with, again, needles and threads floating around. This is from Charlie Claire Burgess, Fifth Spirit Tarot. This one's pretty interesting. And again, please bear with me as I read what the guidebook says, because I feel like these creators and authors have really, I picked these because I feel like they've brought different aspects of the Three of Swords to the table, but pertinent. So here's what Charlie says. Famously called the Heartbreak card, this one is pretty wince-worthy. It marks some source of pain, grief, or disappointment, but it doesn't have to be a new one. Sometimes the wound has already been dealt, but we're not letting it heal. This is the swords, after all, the suit of the mental realm. This anguish is felt in the heart. This is the part I really like, how we can relate this card to the swords in the mind. This anguish is felt in the heart, but it's inflicted by the mind. This card is the thought loop of what you wish you'd said or done differently. It's dwelling, obsessing, resentment. It's shame and self-flagellation. It can also be the opposite, denial and avoidance, masking the pain, sometimes with substances and other times distractions. So you're never going to heal if you don't recognize and accept that there's been a betrayal, or that you've experienced pain in your heart. This is a call to pay attention to how your mind is getting stabby with your heart and hindering its healing. So the mind aspect of the Three of Swords is preventing us from moving on and healing. It's time to remove those pointy thought swords, clean those wounds, and find your thread. The mind can be a knife or a needle. It's your choice. How about letting it sew you up again? So I really like that a lot, what Charlie says about the interplay between the mind and the heart. Here's another one. This is from Starseeker's Tarot by Nikki Ferrada. So this one, I feel like, speaks to, if I look at that and see that's the state of my mind, what Charlie mentioned, you know, the mind is not letting the heart heal. And look at that kind of cyclone, that hurricane of the mind just doing that negative thought loop. And here's what Nikki has to say. Human hands hold a personal universe, now suddenly wounded and potentially irreparable. The Three of Swords indicates a loss, heartbreak, or disappointment in life. When something we loved or desired is suddenly gone, it can be challenging to move past it. In many ways, this card speaks to the mind-heart connection. When we experience loss, our mind often influences the heaviness that we carry in our hearts. It is important in times of sadness to let yourself mourn. It is just as important to make sure your mind doesn't perpetuate or inflame the agony of loss. Negative thinking can feed heartbreak beyond what is necessary. So this is a reflection or a relationship, or in relationship to what Charlie said. Luna, please lie down and stop barking. Thank you. You can and will heal if you allow yourself to. This experience may be painful, but there is hope ahead. The clouds will lift and there will be new opportunities on the horizon. And then I just wanted to, this is from the Gentle Tarot. I'm not going to read what Mari wrote in her book, but I just want to bring this forward. I love this because it's got the mind and the heart intertwined or pictured together. And I thought that was a really clever way of portraying this, as opposed to that sort of Valentine heart, the anatomical heart, and then we can see the mind behind it, and the instead of the swords. Well, Mari calls this in her deck the suit of thunder. But one of the things that I know she mentions in the guidebook is, so here's our three swords or thunder, but look. There's hope on the horizon. There's a rainbow coming out of the end of one of the lightning bolts. So, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about the Three of Swords? I'm not sure that, I say it's one of my favorite cards. Am I happy when it shows up in a reading? Not really. But, you know, the cards show up as they show up, and as we need to see them. So share your thoughts in the comments below about what you think about the Three of Swords. Do you see anything positive about the Three of Swords? Have you experienced the Three of Swords yourself? What do you do when it comes up in a reading for a querent that you're reading for? So I'm going to continue this series with some of my other favorite minors. Feel free to mention also below what some of your favorite minors are. So many blessings to you, and peace be with you.